deep into the fabric of our society. I've come to the studio today to brief you on the latest state of the revolution and to share with you our thoughts on the future of our dear nation. I do this in the conviction that there can be no revolution unless the people, all of us, really understand what it is all about, and springing from that understanding, genuinely commit our support to it. Let me remind you again of the stated aim of the revolution. The action taken by the junior officers and other ranks of the Ghana Armed Forces was motivated by a desire to bring justice, social, economic, and political, to all citizens of Ghana. After 7 years in office, the army was going back to barracks without any steps having been taken to punish those who had tarnished the name of the armed forces. This situation posed a threat to the continued existence of the armed forces and the stability of the country, hence the spontaneous action of June 4th to preempt a coup immediately after handover to a civilian administration. We have all heard from every political party say how corrupt the country has become. But from past experience, we know that none of them would do a thorough job of eradicating corruption once they came into office. Since the future belongs to the young, it was felt that we must safeguard the supreme national interest and bring social justice into the body politic. The main purpose of the exercise is to ensure that the gap between the haves and the have-nots, the rich and poor, is bridged. This is a limited objective which would help the incoming administration to take all necessary long-term measures for bringing stability to the nation. I know that there are many Ghanaians and many friends of Ghana abroad who have been distressed by some recent developments. We have also been made aware of the depth of feeling, both at home and abroad, about the turn of events in Ghana. Ghana has had a long tradition of tolerance and respect for the rule of law and internationally accepted principles of justice. The fear, both within and outside Ghana, is that we may now be abandoning this tradition in favor of some arbitrary conception of instant justice. This fear, though understandable, is not well founded, as a better appreciation of the circumstances will reveal. Let me tell you in simple language. The people of Ghana have endured hunger for far too long. There is not one single worker who could make ends meet, and the miracle is that the people have been able to endure this for so long. You may say that this has been possible because of our excellent tradition of tolerance and patience. But patience and tolerance can be dangerous because they allow a buildup of anger to such an extent that when the bubble finally bursts, there can hardly be a way of containment. Countrymen and friends of Ghana, we must thank God that this pent-up anger did not erupt as it might have. The threat to the unity of the nation was real. If we had not acted the way we did, the nation could have faced total disintegration. In the circumstances, we have exacted the supreme price in the conviction that it was the only way to save the situation and to leave a lasting legacy for Ghanaians yet unborn, and that when one attains the highest office of state, one should learn to serve the people and not lord it over them, and be prepared at all times to account for their stewardship. Countrymen and friends of Ghana, let me assure you that Ghana will not abandon her traditions of respect for the rule of law and the principles of justice. We have not abandoned and will not abandon our respect for human rights, and we are fully aware of our obligations under the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights.
Vision 193.5 Suni Awusafo we a Kani Mampeni Tutujagu Odumja Jerry John Rawlings or didn't want Punuya a Opudom. Ena otis a bra afi apem ahenkron afi apem ahenkron aduoson kron no mu no ya won edi kan ye se yentu aban mu na wontumi ye no wo kasa ewo man no fidi kasa fidi batan so no na wote ye no se ye bochio na wo hwe a military academy ya wo teshi no afia pema henkro diusia nkro no mu ene se won man no so ye commission no se wo lieutenant enti won ye mrante no won ni so wo hye pa na ni so wo hye pa na ene meka hintasem bi a kire wo bra wutie ko na bra ntie betwetwetwa bi so ye betwetwetwa bi so enti we no won di nkunim wie no ebra kane mempani tutujagu odum jajeri John Rawlings amponua opudon won ba adwa so no ade ba ko ne sin ni so ne se na mrantesem wo no mu pa nti oyo obi a se adwuma ekoso a ono apeso ye bi se de metie no sa subane bi no se bi a ye adwuma esusu se bi a obi a wo ye sofo dia na wo ye elder nti ye adwuma bi a sorry kra adwuma agina nche mementesa I will involve myself and even do it better. Sa na papa jetie. Enti ebra oba no hu se dru ba bi o si edua nnuane ne ade no wodi emrante yosu ya na ewo no mu no wura nipam. Enti mo hwe o Facebook no. Mo be hu se okwafuom ebra oba no okwafuom no ne edom edua buro o dua mo enti ema nipa binum oyesa na camera de akira ye kasafa ho ne ade eye emfonyitwa fidie sinitwa fidie na bibia kan enti se mo hwe Facebook a mo amutie o radio no ye pese munya ho adanse no bi no yentie se de bra o hyase na okọ afuom na won edua buro ne ade se de na osi ye na ni suade ho no
You better shut up when I'm talking, okay? Hello, listen.
Ghanaian leader, Flight Lieutenant Jerry Rawlings.
All planters, do you have corn? I'm talking about planters, not diggers. Let me see you by the hand. Up. Good. Now, those of you who has the corn sacks, go and supply. But you've got corn in your left hand. Jesus Christ. Okay. Now, those of you with the sacks, better watch out and feed us, okay? Now, where is he? You take over.
Under Rawlings, Ghana has rediscovered a sense of direction. He is pursuing a policy of socialism, but the slogans are often more militant than the practice.
And the line is not straight. Move!
The country does need strong leadership. One urgent goal is to re-establish respect for farming. Another is to improve efficiency on the land.
The point is, as they dig the holes, you, the planters, put the seeds in their holes. All right? Every digger, make sure you got a plant.
Rawlings' high-profile politics include setting a public example in the fields and encouraging the masses to self-help.
It is only by collective effort that the nation's problems can be solved. There are still some people who would like the nation to go back to childhood. Such a person was the man from the Osu People's Defense Committee, most unfortunate, who got up to speak at the budget debate at Parliament House recently, and who said that everything was fine when the white man was here. And so we should bring him back to help us. This man, and others who think like him, longs for the dependency of childhood. But we are grown up, or should be. We're supposed to be old enough to realize that the nation is now paying the rest of the outstanding bill for those easier days when so many of our resources were squandered.
Although Rawlings is a military man, he is more concerned with mobilizing for development than for war. His concept of economic conscription is an attempt to enlist more and more citizens into the process of production and social transformation. But Ghana's economy is fragile. The IMF has helped with loans, but ordinary workers still haven't seen much benefit. Political stability remains elusive, and Rawlings' own position is far from secure. To safeguard both his and the country's future, the Rawlings rhetoric now speaks of mobilizing both hoe and gun.
The right to defend your freedom is a must.
Sure.
And the means of having to do so is something you will have to acquire. Oh no. It's a long way off. We've lost a lot of time in having to democratize violence. She means only being why you're here later. Oh no. Okay. Right from America to China to Russia. I mean, more like 10-year-old children can be. Maybe it's the democratization of violence. Oh no. Whoever took control of the bullets, guns, was obviously going to dominate you. And that's the way it's been. That's the way it is in the third world.
The military's monopoly of the gun must be broken if the people are to prevail. Ironically, many Americans would agree with radical Rawlings that the people have a democratic right to bear arms. Whether that results in stability is another question.
The right to defend, your freedom. To enable Koni soldier to get used to the idea that civilian also has the right to hold a weapon. First you have to inculcate the idea into his head. And it's not an easy thing to do.
Abusafo amutie yen ewo Vision 1 FM sanko fadwumadie so no ye ka kire mu se na ye beyi niema bebre apie na wo pese ohunu ni yie pa ko Facebook na bo sanko fa ministries ade a ye bo kire mu ma se de wona etie yen wo radio betintina ya ye bo a ye mamutie bi no na wona ehwe yen wo sanko fa ministries Facebook no de wo hu video ni bibia so wo papa je ya se de na ositie no na oyobia oye amrantesem no wonu munti no opese bribia e wonu mu no ewura nipa utie ne yeba se bribi chia na ye ne ya bribi chia na ye ne ya na meyi hintasem bia di akireo enche meyi no akiremo na obeti enema bebre sisi wo na breso sa de ye cause we nyina no a oba ya ne nani abre se obetumi ahwe na yetumi anya nnuane adi ntide na ye bɔkyere mu amutie en radio so nyina na afuomu na owo no wabo my Ghana mrantie ne mabawa no na oni onyina edua aburo no edo na ohwe sa abre no se agric minister no na owo himfa adesua bebrewum ene mrantie de ohun wura politics mu no won wura politics mu won hya 10 years dia temba basa osum no obesum no enu ni mu na wohwe kanema mpanyini papa je nu a ne mranti bremu a oye ku 19 afia pema henkro adioso enkro no mu no a ba ye no a oye sa ne ma nani abre ne ade nyina no na opese bribi yeyie oman ni nsin tempons ekwan so anase ne tempon mu oman ne dadoa emmo babie sese ebo enso ne mranti ndi wo hoji amanyosemu asikadie omesum abrantie wie university wonya adwuma nya nwa be politics enche no the VAT ti odi panyina tema wonwe ho na nye papaja abresoa etidi yi kire mu nyina no ne mu amutie o radio no matumi bo chechire mu ne se afuom na no wo amutie se no wo kasa no odo bi okura so odo na sabre no amu no na abantunwo ni ade ekokozo nti no eduru ba bi no osusu se nipa bi no wo a na osu ku won na emfiri nipa ogina mmara so na yekum won enti obedi ade no enafua oha ani dumienu enafua oha ni dumienu enomu no na nipa binom a wono di ade se generals ebi ti say General Ignatius Kutu Champon, Lieutenant General Frederick W. Akufo. Saa nipa nyina no yeso won hwe wo mrem emenam saa yeso ema want to toy. Tieni yepa ema want to toy. Na ninkamfu ane breni nti no nye wonko afri fanum nyina kire yi won nyina afrifa no nsusu ye sojani a onso adi ade pen afa bantum wo mu adedie ni sabrenum se no onyo no won nyina nso totoe ya na eya sefem sempa eno ne ade ba ko a na breso no na nipa de bono kwa adupa se wakamoja agu ya nipa de bono kwa na eneme ye hintasem bi wo mu de a kire ko Facebook na Bosankofa Ministries hweme live ebra ye de sa nipa yi ekwa akukunkun won no sa public execution no of these army top army officers no said na enipa kasafa ho ni ho kasa kira ye kan commentary course so nyina no mo amutie ye on radio no se mo betia sienti no wo ewo Facebook de on benya video na hwebra na ye de won ko dom na ahia ho nyina no Bosankofa Ministry sisi ye a obenyame ahwe me live na hwe saade no enti yenhwe na yentie sede na eko mo amutie radio no for the benefit of our listeners no mo beti commentary epese rani ho na mo hunu brenu mu ana sankrofo ye kokunkum won no sede na esitie enti mu amutie yen radio no mu amuhwe Facebook na beboa mo fi se commentary no na ye ma no na emu na osa enti wo mu ehwe Facebook live no Bosankofa Ministries Facebook live hwe dom a na egu obra no won ko shutu saa nipa yi akum won no won dom enti ye de won agu car no mu a ye de won okro na wo ukura phone sesi a ko Facebook a Bosankofa Ministries live na hwe yen enti won ne de won asensen honum no ti e be shoot won akum won enti won dom edimirika sada na dom ekọ ho ekwa akọhwe bibra ye tututu akum won no saade ye ade ba ko a enipa de yo atwerode tuntum ewo kane mampanyini tutujagu odum jajeri John Rawlings ode no homponu e opudom na brabo ho pa enti ma dodo no anu edi ya tweredua kasae ese eduru baabi no saa ketasehye kankan proye ene se mafum tumi afa na nkopeso yi free ho nti saa nkrofo yi yedi wona sem ebo won se yebekum won no afei no eduru baabi no nipa susu se na afo ya sa chenso ewo na ban mu tieni yo ade a no wo ko atia no enye wo no potin nanso nipa binom wo mu a won yo de boro de oyo no a nenka wo se won su wokum won saa edida won ekokum saa generals no eye kanin saa army officers ya na wo musu adi o man so pen ena mo amohwe Facebook no mahu dom no edom ne dimrika ena yede won agu won ekokum wa kotututu akum won no ena yede won agu kam dom eko na eno no public execution of sa top army officers no na se dom on egu ka mu ede wono ekro no iti mu amohwe no Facebook live Sankofa Ministries Facebook live Ti saa da ne de won ba aye ko shoot wona ku won. E do he saa nipa ya won yo saa WK akufunum Ignatius Kutu championnum na akire ya free fanum ni ade. Eti mo amohwe ne yi ni nyina akire mo live e wo Facebook. Enti wo hwe we nyina papa J e bro ba na ne ma esi nani so anka opeso man ni nsini timpo mu no. Now Bronika said there is no sacrifice there is no success without sacrifice. And the do baby e pese e kora bribi agi se nipa binom e bo afore obi subamboni no ye hwesu de ne subamboni no de bo afore enti se prison na wo se de ne kɔ na yemfen na ho a etumi de ne kɔ obi ho nso ane boni ntraso ne kum na wo so wonkum no wonkum no enti no there is no success without suffering, there is no victory, and there is no success without sacrifice, and there is no victory without suffering. It is hard ye na o ye ne ni suade hunu ne se anka ye de ne ma etu ne kwam eno ya de ba ko a ebesi ne edipa bi no makaseti a mo beka ye na anu a kanema panyi papa je free mu no kutu champon baba ko ebe kasai edifa ho se wuwu ye ne mesu no no ne papa no usua ne ku no ya a ye nya ko adu amo no mo beka ye a ne ba no beka sai. Enti won ayi kunkun won mo amohwe Facebook live no mfo nyini ne de atoto ama mo ni video no ubo sanko family ministries live ubenya ahwesisia na sanko moyi course sa de course no ena kane mampanini a wanya ne ba bi kro sabria wo nyini duru ne mpanyin fie mu ena obeda hintasem bi adi sa hintasem ma me de bramo yi ebi a wonte da afri fa kuma okum no eduru ba bi no obekechire mu kire se afri fa kum no kura no na nya ne pese obeku na nipa bebre ho a won kunkun na nya ono a na eye sojafo bi no mu oni won ko school a won so beye sojafo no bi a wode won kan on na mamuo hu na ono pe o man ye die no bi na beke kansem kire ne se ebi a nipa sumasi pese obetu waban nipa sumasi kura so obeku nipa sumasi ayesei enti ade bi esusu se boni bi a odi ye eyimo jahwie guo so yesusu aha yesusu bebre no ho ane kasa o kan no kire se na bebre no onim ho hwe ebi ho a wonne ma enhye no broni kan order se wo mun kukum nipa no de nanso sa bebre no o kan brofu bi se he was misled. Enti won se ebra wote wonyina no na ze o sebo ne fache wona kumam ne na adwene mu fiso nipa ne bi wo ho a na bresu ekobo wontu kun a akire sa wonu no ho fi se wanya ono anani se ade bia na ode tia won na mbom se eye sojafo ni bia wo mu ye ne namfonum no nka no ho a won ebu man sa abremrante asisizuo ene on be kan sem bi kire no ne wo se ne monkoyoe na ona kuku nipa no na odi nkomo bi mo amutie radio na oka se I did not order the execution of Lieutenant Afrifa na sankomo no yentie sankomo no kakra na yentie.
Why did you execute Afrifa? He was retired, he was in his village. What did he do wrong?
It might interest you to know that Afrifa was being provocative, and I had him locked up. And he wasn't feeling too good. So I said, they should send him to the hospital. And after he recovered, I remember very well, and the gentleman who was keeping an eye on him was called Dennis. He was also in Achimota School, 1 or 2 years ahead of me. He was with intelligence machinery then, that he had recovered. He's okay now. What do we? I said, let him go home. And yet, later, had to be brought back. You see what I mean?
Why?
One evening, I don't know if it was the evening before the departures had to take place. I went
You mean the
to-
executions?
Correct. I went to see a respectable general of ours. In fact, someone who just missed, had a close, what you call it. He just escaped, being hurt, also being killed on that June 4th day. A man whose life was saved because I held him in very high regard. So I went to show him the list. I was in a very heavy mood. I remember where he sat, and I sat on, what do they call it, a couch. Those leather things people rest their feet on.
Yeah, the leather puff.
Correct. And looking away from him. And I'd given the list to him. And I was very, very heavy. I'm saying I couldn't hold back the tears because we had tried everything to prevent it. The executions of the commanders. And after about 2 minutes or so, I heard him behind me ask, and where's the rogue? Where's the rogue? The rogue's name is not on the list. So, this shocked me a little.
And did you know who he was talking about?
No. So I turned towards him, expecting him to say who he meant by that rogue. Because here you are, trying to prevent a situation with such a list. For him to be asking to an additional name, a name that was also not on the list, took me aback a little, But I turned towards him and looking towards him. And so I was looking at him like, whose name is it? Who's the person? When he said, Afrifa. General Afrifa. So I'm still looking at him. Like, he will have to say more. And what did he say? He said Afrifa had been advanced a good load of money to wage a campaign against Champong's union government. Yes, at that time, things were pretty hot. And instead of using that money for that purpose, the money, incidentally, as he said, came from an establishment within an organization in the West. I don't want to say the name now. And and instead of using that money to wage that campaign against the Champong, he used it, according to the general, to edge out, what's his name? Mr. Pawili, who I believe was the leader of the UNC at that time.
Correct.
He edged out Pawili and took over the leadership of that party. I cannot recall. I wasn't too much into the politics of those days, but that's what he said. Whether it happened or not, I don't know. Oh, well, in politics, I guess that could be sinful enough, I guess. So I kept quiet, collected the list, and went away and did what I had to do.
So did he add the name? Or did he ask you to then add the name?
It was obvious that his name would have to be added.
Okay.
Because we would have to make some serious sacrifices. And the guiltier you are, the easier it could be. And here you had a list of innocent good people as well who would have to die to save hundreds.
And this person was a general.
Sure.
Is he alive?
Yes. Yes.
Is he still your friend?
Oh, no. You must have, in a way I was a little naive also around that time. It wasn't until later that I saw through what he did. What he said could very well have been true. However, I think he wanted that man out of the way, because he felt, upstaged by General Frifa by virtue of the 66 coup. Until then, he thought he was a rising star, the point man for Western intelligence organizations. And now, the 66 coup haven't happened. I guess he's the one they are dealing with, and not him, who he thought was more qualified.
But you took his word then?
Oh, I used to hold him in such high esteem. There's some other interest. On one occasion, I was sitting with a major friend of mine when we were discussing the move that had to be made, especially the one pertaining to dropping the bomb on a Champong. And in my conversation with this major friend of mine, or was he a captain then? What did he say? No, I said, a Champong in a way had corrupted so many good officers and, pushed out some of the other good ones, the senior ones. So I was saying that this general, for instance, is one of the good ones who could be brought back if or when General Akufo takes over, to assist him, in terms of bringing on board efficient, disciplined people. He was one. And this captain friend of mine, it was in the evening in his corridor. What did he say? No, we don't need such holier-than-thou characters. This shocked me a little, because he belonged to a certain tribe, just like he did, and I belonged to also another tribe. But he said, no, we don't need such holier-than-thou characters. And I'm saying that I was shocked, because when again could you need holier-than-thou characters? At this particular point in time, when so much had been corrupted, personalities corrupted. And we know the climate it's created. There are not many left. And here's a very competent person you could bring on board. And you're telling me, holier than thou. I mean, who's compromising himself? To such a point that you find a holier than thou character, intimidating. What were you going to ask?
So I was going to ask whether this person, is this still the general, or this is another person?
Oh, no. It's that same general.
Same general.
He's a survivor. He's a survivor. The number of attempts he made on my life, and a few things. Read my book when it comes out.
Okay, we're looking forward to it.
I hope he'll be alive to read.
If I can conclude on that, so if it wasn't for this general, Afrifa would not have been on the list.
No.
And so Afrifa's name on the list was not your preference.
No. I don't think... No, when we compiled the list, none of us had him in mind. I told you what had happened. He wasn't too well. I had him detained and sent to the hospital. When he recovered, I told Dennis to send him home. It was no part of it. But when you hold such a general in awe, you're just a young officer, thrust into a situation like this, and people have to go, and he tells you something like this, he would know. Yeah. And
what? Do you regret it?
Vision 193.5 Suni na ene so wati wasuma hintasem mu amutie o radio mu amutie o radio ena muti ena mu amuhwe Facebook no de e benefit mo pa fi se video ni bibia we ye nkomo ni kwaku na one boy e de fa sa nipa okunkun won no chese en ebi wo ho a wonunu ho pa kire se eye nipa binumu a no ka no ho ne bedada no manu kunkum sa afuo ni bi na obi ti se free fa sei eni na dwene mu dase nko bebo no tu aku no na ye obi na obeye se nipa obeye sa akora wo no so obeka se papa je yenku akwa wei na akwa no ndi ye se osi ewi ase nsa nipa no kora no onye ono papa je anko obeku no se nipa ni wi ase no pe ono papa je kura aku no he obra ye boy eni wi ase train so wahumu tena eso esua wahumu tena be wo se panie bi e be ka kire wo se watade bi eto tinti fa no kopam no no ne to ate enipa bebrei eka ho bi ena broni be ka se omo mislead papa je ma otutu boni oka mo jabinum guye won zo kasa na de ne ye ne ya osi nipa yes ama oka mo jabinum kura guye wiye no na afi omo kura no they made an attempt to kill him omo anu omo ne no ebe ka kire wi ase no omo nya ono papa je kura nko mbeku no nanso so obi ti se frifa ya wono a ye mikrom ni asante mampon unim papa je si won kanipa nko pesu kunu no afoi sa 79 mu nsensem no ekoba se papa je ma kwan unse meka so enafuwa ohane dumienu enema sisi pa owie no ma kwan sa Fred yento aba nyansa chiame wanoawo intenam so ma Hillary man yeto aba ma oba adwaso na obetina adwaso mfie mienu no papa je hu se osi ne tadua mu emre dodo Hillary man na mamu tadua emu owu Hillary man na mamu tadua no mu gunu dodo na ne nsemu gododo na mamuo no yetadua wuye enti nam saa yeso ema osabe tu no gui utie ne yepa osabe tu no gui ewo panima bosumi nda to so aduasa baako afia pema henkro de wotwe baako num ena osabe tu no gui efri se no sei said na Hillary man eye no na nya mamu a ekoyi 31st December 1981 osaba biu na efiri hono ano wo mun kamumu kuo ni ade na yenka na NDC bi na PNDC na no to asoa ena beduru afi apema henkro aduokunu no ene aduokunu ba akunum no na fe won toto ne yema se ne yento aba yemma kwan na omanfu no ara enko gina abatoɔ adaka ho no phone sentintim wona epe won tu nam so ma wo ginae e ma nipa bi no ne ginae wona na e popular na se wona agidin wo mu a won ginae no emu bi eye NPP fo ahyase ye owura dubu ahin enana oni mempani esi agiren pa mampani Rawlings sabre no no won to aba no wie no mampani Rawlings di nkunim e ma sabatu no mukura ne ade no MPP fo anko mrahye bedwafie ye MPP mrahye bedwafo no na safo ni ahye kabima min kabine foforo ase bi ofisi ahye ase ano na tu aban agu ahye ase ano na tu aban agu to won hye ase safo yenko ti papa je ma kwan ye to afia pema henkro de okru mienu aba no di nkonim ene koba afia pema henkro ade okru nsia 1996 na ewo se owura dubu ahi ejina baabi enti mo a mo hwɛ yɛn Facebook Hilary Man na ɛkasa no Hilary Man na obedi ade a afia pema henkro de wɔtwe baako 1981 Papa J sabe tu no fira konwa so obeye ku tu no no ona mo hwɛ no Facebook no mo a mo hwɛ Facebook live no ye yi kyerɛ mo Hilary Man munim no a ye yi video Bosanko fa ministries wo Facebook oba so ano wa share program no Bosanko fa ministries wo Facebook enti Hilary Man ene ye yi ne kyerɛ mo no ono obedi ade mfie mienu ene Papa J si na mamu tadua mu gono dodo wonya ade no san bedwiri na mamu no guye no beje akofuna no bio enti eto asoma afai afia pema henkron ade okron emienu no yeto aba na odi nkonim no owura dubu ahe ogina ma MPP antumi ani nkonim edi enu mu a no enam so kura ma otena adwa so nipa ani bebre ba no ho tina nkofo pese wono ba ne nkyɛn pa enti se wo hwɛ otena adwa so no a na nani so ohia wono onipa ɛyɛ ade bi na nya ankanka ne bibi man ye bibi tia no mpɛ kura to odi nkomo bi kura wobra BBC nom ne sien ne ade woni di nkomo no kasa se berima onsura brofo pa yenhwɛ na yentie sɛde osidi sa nkomo no sɛde nani breye ɛni sɛde osidi sa nkomo no ya na nani abre pa mo Facebook no mo hwɛ sa nkomo no ɛni sɛde osidi no yentie no mra yentie mra
penny nana kwatia manfunya nsachi mi atrasio
mo Facebook no mo hwɛ no live mo hwɛ no live na wɔn wɔ radio no ye hwɛ sɛ mo so mo betimi ate saa nkomo no ya udiye na ni abri ya woni abrofo no nkomo na emudo pa mo Facebook no de mo hwɛ no live mo hwɛ no live enti ne nkomo no odi ye no mo radio ye bo mo tie bi Facebook phone de wono etene live
as bad as an enemy can be, I think something worse than an enemy is a traitor. We've ended up evolving in the process of trying to modernize. We've ended up being westernized to the point where, as I sit here before you, when I wanted to even name my children African names, heroic names, I'm a Catholic. The Catholic Church, or that character, back at home, said, no, I cannot. They'll have to be Catholic names. I mean, those Catholic names are European names. I went through an argument with this priest, and I said, listen, I have a right to my identity. Don't take away my identity. Okay? I mean, Christianize me if you may, but don't westernize me. There were times, my wife and I is a great graphic artist. We made some beautiful Christmas cards that depicted Christmas in an African setting. And the Christmas cards sold so well, even with Catholic nuns, white Catholic nuns. We wanted to secure the patent. I went to an office, the Registrar General's office, to secure the patent. Can you believe that this fellow African, Registrar General, looking at my black personality, black face, told me that, no, I cannot. This was long after independence.
and that it's going to take about 3 years. I said, why 3 years? He said, it'll have to go to England. It'll go to England, and it might take about 3 years before I'm granted the right to that patent or whatever it is that register. In other words, in effect, what I'm trying to say is that, oh, so I have no right to even my creativity. I create my own, you take it away from me, and you have to send it to the colonial power. 3 years later, when they have reproduced it, and I have no more right to it. So as an African, when you're talking about democracy, etc., let's put it aside. Let me bring you to the current modern situation. We end up with injustice, we end up with corruption, we end up with poverty, we end up with the worst possible things, we end up with the image. I don't have to tell you the image that you have in Africa. I don't have to tell you. Please, I know the potential of humanity. So when you're talking about the effects of some of these things, sometimes, you know, these superpowers must learn to accommodate and to live and to accept patriotic leadership, patriotic citizens. Too often, they're happier with people who are not patriots. But if the media, especially in America, for instance, could give you both sides of the story as pertains to foreign policies and foreign actions, you will bring so much pressure to bear, because you still live in a world with the capacity and the ability to be able to influence your presidents. You can impeach your presidents like in America. So you as a people still have power, unlike us. In Africa, they disempower. Let me just say something. I have a little theory that the world is manipulated. I may be wrong, but the world is manipulated by the multinational corporations, the media, some parts of the media, and the intelligence apparatus. They work as a triumvirate, and they are neatly sandwiched like the ham, like your tomato, whatever it is. They are neatly sandwiched in between the governed people, you, the governed ordinary people, and the governors. That is where the manipulation takes place. And there is a symbiotic relationship between the triumvirate and sometimes at this level. And if we do not make every possible attempt to return morality, when we're talking about the immorality of international politics, the immorality in business ethics is also percolating downwards, and the criminal, corrupt thing that goes on in my world is bad. So the sooner we begin to return to restore some sense of morality in business ethics, in politics, in the media, intelligence apparatus, with beliefs, conviction that this is wrong, etc. After all, if you're talking about globalization, then please, let the same value, what is good for the goose, let it be good for the gander.
If you like informative and educational videos on Africa, make sure to like.
Enti abusuafo amutie no yabwa mwati bi uko Facebook so Sankofa Ministries ye yin live. Said ye mubehu no wo Sankofa Ministries ya no ahwe live. Enti sa we ye nkomo a afi wote adwa so onu ade no. Na brofo no ni di nkomo ade na hi o kanu no kure said ye ti was mu brofo no. Na muso na yebre. Christianize me, but don't ever westernalize me. Chezo obe tumi ayese o di Christosuma mamedie. Nanso so nyame se me di wo bruni wachi ewo wo culture mu ewa mamre. Na do ba bi wa wo ne ma okoto din a father no kura Roman father no kura ka se da bi din oto no mfa nto bruni din. No nto da bi. It was mama brofo na mama o my Ghana any Africa yebre. It is abre na nani abre e ba kabima min kabi free apima henkron adio krom yenu mu ade ba no afia apima henkron adio kron enum 1995 11th January 1995 nyomtuni kase a wo wiase nyina e afia apima henkron adio kron num ne da opepon busumi da tosudu ba ako 11th January 1995 ehonum na Michael Jackson ebepe Papa J hwe no Michael Jackson no ye nwumtoni a wagidin wo wiase nyina etenam saa ye sumo ne Papa J hia enu ne di enkomo na wo mun komo ne yentie se de enso koe.
I was advised of your presence in Los Angeles, and when I found out about your purpose and your mission to rebuild the continent of Africa, I couldn't resist. I love Africa. I adore Africa. I've always loved Africa. I want you to know you're not alone. I'm here with you. You're always in my heart. We're never apart. My brother and friend, Prince Al-Wali, asked me to present this sword to you tonight, and I'm very honored. Thank you.
But somehow I think the one tune that I don't miss is the trial and tribulation, what do you call it? Trial and tribulation, you know, with the whale jumping over. That's
right. Eti wey no oni Papa J Michael Jackson oni Papa J shia eti wo hia Papa J na bra bomu oni ade e fa free bra na okọ school e de bedu sampomponso ni ade bra na wo ware ni ade nyina de bedu sampomponso imu onu na we ni ya afia pema henkron e de okro enum 1995 opepombo sumi de to su dubako ene so ni Michael Jackson shia no obai na eno achi no mfiempi mienu abato ba na efiri afia pema henkron ade okono mienu no 1992 de ba mfiempi mienu ne ba akono onya bedi akire mienu ko aka a obeye vice president ene eno akire no o cycle for kanima mpanyina onya ne ba bi kro John Evans Fifi Abonta Samuel Messi Infanti Dupont ebe na bedi akire ewo ko nkansa aka achi na mfiempi mienu abatuo no aikɔso no na ono ogina bi we enye yefisi ahyehye abatuo no foforo se o komprenu antimi nkɔ bieu aya prenso enti hu ko hia se afia pema henkro de okron sia 1996 abatuo na dubu ahiama bi ontina wo se John Ajekum kentranwambre mponya nsapokofo ne negina odi nkuguo ema Papa J di ne sunkonim enti mfiempi mienu no na wo se nipa no ya bedi akire ma Papa J John Evans Fifi Abonta Samuel Messi Infanti Dupont oni mampanyin kufuo ejina ogina no odi nkuguo ema mampanyin kufuo di ne sunkonim emfempi mienu ni nan osan ejina odi nkuguo emfempi mienu ni nwotwe na mampanyin kufuo braso NMPP fo kwa abatuo so ekoto aba eyi di obegina ma ona na kufuo adunyae eno no ginae na oni mampanyin dada mills ginae ena mampanyin dada mills yetu aba no wie no yenya de obedi nkunim tina wo so wonsa akọ na okọ tan ena mampanyin mills de edi mampanyin a wote adwa so sese ya sabre no ye candidate ai flag bearer no ye Franka Tufuo edema MPP na na do sunkunim ena mfempi mienu eni dumienu mampanyin Messi Freem ema kane mampanyin John Dramani odi ade da cha semti boninti mahama beto aso emfempi mienu ni dumienu no abato ekoso no kunimdi ama na aduma ekopie mu court ene se no didi mu a ena mfempi mienu dunsia ba ya abato ba aso no na na dutumi di nkunim a ode bo mampanyin dada mahama ene ode to aso a efri sabre no mu ban Papa J abrabo bam edru mfempi mienu ba dunum ni dunsia no na ɔse osusu sɛ nneɛma bi nkɔ yie wɔ amanyɔkuo no ankasa de baa enum ɛfiri sɛ emu nipa no asua adeɛ bi a wɔn wɔmpɛ nti wɔsi na emu nipa no di atɛm dodo nkwadaa no mu adeɛ nti wotumi de toto ho kɔka sɛ nkwadaa no kura no wɔn kasa ya no ɔdwene sɛ ntimi ne edi matam sei anaa me yere anaa sɛ matena midu na nkwadaa no ano ɔya sɛ NDC foɔ di atɛm sɛ wɔn mo ano ɔya sɛ osugya acid enti saa brɛ no mu nyinaa no na wohwɛ papagye a na ne bonwo so ɛwɔ adeɛ a na party ɔno ade bae nkwadaa no ahyɛ aseɛ ɛde bam si wɔn didi mpanyimfoɔ atɛm na wɔn di atɛm enti sei na ɔkae mo a mo Facebook no bɛnya live but Sankofa Ministries radio for no yɛbɔ na moate
NDC people compared us to the MPP. MPP, they don't waste their time on too many insults. So, NDC, our mouths like acid. NDC people compared us to the MPP. MPP, they don't waste their time on too many insults. So, NDC, our mouths like acid.
At way a yasem or kind bia, then a near brese, dear party no wompe, won't dear attempt to do. Na no free sabre no be your time. E kuru anim pumpunu ne anwai ne amia ete9. Won pumpunu ye won anwai tie nam suma nkugu obama won fempimienu dunsia fi se okase won ko campaign bio. E fempimienu aduonu nsuso ba no okase won ko campaign bio. E fi se won di na tem dodo. Eti na ewe no ye ne ya. Na je se otutufu bia nsuma won amfa. Ena edidi mu a ene kyese fofi antoata no wadwana ba mu e wa bato a na eba no ho no ene nam so e ma ye koda sori ya ne kyese kanen mampani tutujegu odumgya Jerry John Rawlings ode no ho amponu a opudom na owo de ne kwankora abesan kwan amananom no owo de ne kwankora abesan kwan amananom ewiem be no miensam ho num baabi ya eye obubuobu sumenda na tosu dumienu November 12 2020 ena odupon tutugu ye ema kanema mpanyanti asem na yehuhuhu ayehuhuhu de anse wanyare na ho anya papa yi owuo ede ne hankra so no kon atwene kwa samando amma nkwakofi adwiri amabayire ho atompan nkwakuku abo apete ama subontin okunini etenema mansansa bi numa twetwa sinesini awe kura ya odi free mu enna nam so na otwe esi mu efri dwada nyina no de ba no oman Ghana hye na nimunyam se di okoyo hakum aboa ba fie no yede ne honwum ne bon kwan ase ne yebodompem nso aye kai no enti oman ne gisi ne so ya yeye no oman ayiye ya anye na busua yeye no oman ayiye fi se oyo mampani eti mo amwe Facebook no ne yeyi kwan ne yefa so ye na yiye no bi kire mo no enam abakosema meka fa no huninti ya ye de damre fadue nsam e maka ne mampani ene wate na hintasem ene ba bia wanti pen ene maka ne nyina e de akire ya hwe na yiye na sen kane mampanyi kofo ko bi o ti hwil mu eno mede nchechire bi beba obehunu woye onipa watie me afa nansem hu a beba bia papa je hyase free no na ho odin adwuma no woyo na ni na abre ma oman nchechire abrantie na ni abre na okọ no wonyini na onyina duru ba bi sa ho odin na ni hobio tumi no na ni hobio eduru ba bi afo yehwe no ayehu no woye MP minister DC ana woye osikani ana osofo ana woye odwadini ba na barima utiemia bro ho ase wate man never is aya bro ho ase na odupon ye kesisen a yebebu no apai e de ayakonwa mo nipa atena so atetan gu so enti se wo ye ni wote senya a wo so asase so senya a wo bekwa asase ase ma nipa tietia wo so abrempon ye sie won nyina no ye na asase so ye tietia won so bro ho ase man never is onipa ni hoda nya da no berima yo berima eti na manyofo nkoda mo asisu amu di mpanyimfo atem NDC fo NPP fo manti a mosisu a mudi mpanyimfo ate mumua de tumi ni ade enti asofo a mosisu Ghana mu a motu nuro enti mumua de ne mu a muntu nuro nso adoma chede o mu enti mumua de bro ho ase na biribi betumi o. Now our friend, our uncle, our father we loved most, we cherished most is no more. Then so dia na nko ni hwe ba bia me do sha se free ye we say no si boy dwuma na hwe ba bia bedru ye e wo hi bio e je na ye hwe abakosema na e fa papa je o won se mi ye hitasem bi kiro se nipa okunkun won no bebre wo ho a se na nya ne boso a ye ne namfo no mo ben no ne empanyimfo a woni won intelligence machinery no se bia bibi koso won ne be ka kire no no ebinum ye nipa bonefo ne ma okunkum nipa binum anse se okunkum won ene wo te ono aye confession no a me bo kire wo bro ho ase wate na won ka ho sada we ne ade aisuan we ene ade aisuan na wan hunu sa ne ma yi a ummu nipa na mum kai se enani hoda eba sisi ana me de obradwensem ato aso nya bia ho abrifu na tum no abaso bi medin di apostle na kwatin amanfo the Solomon of our time eden wasua de pa share video no enko eba
Semi bu mi bofo nyansania kadia mewie ni obibini ampadia mi wo mampadia mi wo mi peni swada ni mi akowa Nasanka samandi yo mayanka metukwanya kwa biza mi nanae abuna fo bi ase abunae wasemu a wokan ne da ono Usiwi asi weni ansodi ya uwo Wamfasi dama ochadi ya Dakuro bi Apedi ebedane wakowa Eti abna fobia Abna wasem niniu Muma misumi we Muma misumi we Yatabru wapa didi sumina suse Africa ya mayemu eni yenkoyemu ya semo mama misumi we sase ya transi supa ye chadu yesu mayeni dikra yatabru wapa